Falling in love today is usually a risk to your pride. Maybe you get rejected. Maybe your heart gets broken. Maybe you spend a few weeks wondering what went wrong. But for most of human history, love carried consequences far more dangerous than embarrassment. Long before cities, laws, and dating apps, choosing the wrong person could cost you everything. A rejected advance might provoke violence. A forbidden relationship could spark conflict between families or entire groups. Pursuing someone already claimed by another could lead to retaliation, exile, or abandonment in a world where surviving alone was almost impossible. Yet, humans kept doing it. Again and again, across thousands of generations, people risked their safety, their status, and sometimes their lives for a feeling that seemed to make them act against their own interests. It raises a strange question. Why would evolution create an emotion so powerful, so irrational, and so dangerous in the first place? To understand that, we need to return to a world where there were no cities, no laws, and no safety nets. For almost all of human existence, there was no such thing as a private life. No apartments, no distant cities, no chance to disappear and start over somewhere new. Human beings lived in small hunter-gatherer bands, often numbering only a few dozen people. Everyone knew everyone. Every success was shared. Every mistake was remembered. Survival was never guaranteed. A failed hunt could mean hunger. An infected wound could mean death. Predators waited beyond the glow of the fire. Routes arrived without warning. Entire groups existed on a razor's edge between survival and disaster. In a world like this, every person mattered. Each hunter, gatherer, elder, and parent contributed something the group needed. Losing even a single member could weaken the chances of everyone else making it through the next season. That meant relationships were never purely personal. A bond between two people affected the stability of the entire group. Traction, jealousy, loyalty, and conflict didn't stay between individuals. Their consequences rippled outward into the lives of everyone around them. Modern people often think of love as a matter of personal choice. But in a world built entirely around survival, how much freedom did people really have to choose who they loved? The answer reveals something most modern people rarely consider. Modern culture teaches us to think of love as something intensely personal. Two people meet, feelings develop, and the rest of the world fades into the background. But for prehistoric humans, that idea would have seemed almost impossible. In small bands where everyone depended on one another, relationships rarely belonged to just two individuals. Every new bond had consequences that extended far beyond the couple themselves. A partnership could strengthen cooperation between families, reinforce trust within a group, or help maintain stability during difficult times. But it could also do the opposite. Attraction had a way of rearranging the social landscape. If two people formed a bond, others were affected. Rivalries emerged, expectations changed, existing relationships were tested. Jealousy was not merely an emotional problem. It could become a social one. Imagine a group of 30 people living together for years, sharing food, shelter, and survival. Now imagine one romantic decision creating resentment between relatives, tension between hunters, or distrust between families. In a world with no courts, no police, and no institutions to absorb conflict, even small personal disputes could spread through the entire community. Long before governments existed, romantic choices carried political weight. Not politics in the modern sense, but something even older. Constant negotiation of status, loyalty, and belonging. Who paired with whom could influence alliances, cooperation, and group cohesion. And if a relationship strengthened the group, it was welcomed. But what happened when someone chose a partner that others believed they shouldn't? Sometimes, the consequences were far worse than heartbreak. Love may feel gentle in poetry, but throughout much of human history, it existed alongside competition. Beneath every romance was a reality that shaped the lives of countless generations. Not everyone would succeed. For prehistoric men especially, status often influenced reproductive opportunities. A skilled hunter, a respected protector, or someone with strong social connections was more likely to attract a partner. Those who lacked status faced a harsher reality. The stakes were not simply emotional. They were evolutionary. Rejection carried consequences that reached far beyond wounded feelings. Being repeatedly excluded from mating opportunities could mean losing one's place within the social hierarchy. It could create resentment, desperation, and conflict. In small groups where everyone knew each other, failure was impossible to hide. Some individuals responded by taking greater risks. They hunted more dangerous animals. They challenged rivals. They attempted to prove themselves through displays of courage or aggression. The potential reward was enormous. Success could improve status, attract mates, and secure a future family line. Failure could lead to injury, exclusion, or death. Anthropologists have long observed connections between competition for mates and violent behavior across many societies. The pattern is not unique to humans, but in humans it became intertwined with culture, reputation, and social standing. Love was never just an emotion. It was also a contest. Yet even rivalry and rejection were not the greatest dangers surrounding prehistoric relationships. The real threat emerged when attraction crossed lines that entire groups expected people to respect. The most dangerous relationships were not the ones that ended in rejection. They were the ones that challenged the boundaries of the group itself. Throughout history, anthropologists have documented traditions involving bride capture, mate raiding, and the forcible removal of partners from neighboring communities. The details varied from culture to culture, but the underlying reality was often the same. Relationships could become flashpoints for conflict between entire groups. In a world without centralized governments or legal systems, there was rarely a neutral authority to settle disputes. If a person was taken, if a partnership was considered illegitimate, or if one group believed it had been dishonored, retaliation often followed. One act could trigger another. A grievance became revenge. Revenge became a cycle. What began as attraction between two individuals could eventually involve dozens of people. Brothers, fathers, allies, and neighboring bands could all be pulled into the conflict. The emotional force that brought two people together sometimes pushed entire communities apart. This is one of the strangest truths about human history. Love has inspired loyalty, sacrifice, and devotion, but it has also fueled violence, rivalry, and bloodshed. The same emotion capable of creating families could also destabilize them. And yet, people continued to take the risk. Again and again, humans chose relationships despite the dangers, despite the uncertainty, and despite the possibility that everything could go wrong. Why would any species repeatedly engage in behavior with such potentially catastrophic consequences? The answer may be hidden inside the human brain itself. If love was so dangerous, why didn't evolution eliminate it? The answer is that evolution was never trying to keep humans safe. It was trying to keep them reproducing. Deep inside the human brain are systems that evolved long before civilization, governments, or written language. These systems do something remarkable. They make another person feel more important than logic, more important than caution, sometimes even more important than survival itself. When humans form strong romantic attachments, the brain releases powerful chemicals associated with reward and bonding. Dopamine creates anticipation, motivation, and desire. Oxytocin strengthens feelings of trust, attachment, and connection. Together, they transform another human being from just another member of the group into someone who feels uniquely significant. This is why love often seems irrational from the outside. The brain is not performing a careful cost-benefit analysis. It is running an ancient program designed to push people toward pair bonding despite the risks. In a sense, love acts like a biological override system. It encourages individuals to accept dangers they might otherwise avoid. The fear of rejection, conflict, or uncertainty remains, but the emotional drive becomes stronger than the warning signals. And that strategy worked. It helped create bonds that increased cooperation, stability, and the survival of children. But if love evolved to help humans survive, why has it caused so much suffering throughout history? Because survival and happiness were never the same thing. One of the most persistent myths about love is that it exists to make us happy. It is a beautiful idea, but evolution was never concerned with happiness. Happiness is temporary. Survival is not. For our ancestors, raising a child was one of the most difficult challenges imaginable. Human children develop slowly. They require years of protection, food, teaching, and care before they can survive on their own. Few individuals could manage that burden alone. This is where love became powerful. Emotional attachment encouraged people to stay connected through hardship. It helped parents continue investing in each other and in their children long after the initial excitement of attraction faded. The bond itself became a survival tool. Seen through this lens, love was never primarily a fairy tale. It was a biological strategy, a mechanism that increased the odds that vulnerable offspring would reach adulthood and continue the species. The remarkable thing is that this strategy worked for hundreds of thousands of years. But that raises another question. If ancient love served the same purpose as modern love, what did those people actually experience when they fell in love? The answer is surprisingly familiar. The world around you has changed beyond recognition. The world inside you has not. The same emotional machinery that guided prehistoric humans through forests, migrations, and uncertain futures is still operating beneath modern life. The apps are new, the cities are new, the technology is new, but the instincts remain remarkably old. That is why jealousy can feel overwhelming even when no physical threat exists. Why attachment can become all-consuming. Why heartbreak can feel far larger than the circumstances that caused it. These reactions are not modern inventions. They are echoes of systems shaped in a world where relationships carried enormous consequences. The ancient human is still there, hidden beneath layers of culture and convenience. And that realization reveals something both uncomfortable and profound. For hundreds of thousands of years, love exposed human beings to risks they could not fully control. It led to jealousy, conflict, rejection, uncertainty, and sometimes even violence. Yet people continued to choose it, because from those choices came families. From families came tribes. From tribes came communities, cultures, and eventually civilizations. The story of humanity is not just the story of tools, fire, or survival. It is also the story of countless individuals choosing another person despite the dangers involved. Love endured because it served a purpose larger than any one life. In the end, love survived because the species needed it to.